All right, welcome back to Florida Football Insiders. You just heard from Ian Hess give you a great breakdown of Miami and Texas A&M on Saturday night in College Station. Now we're going to go to the Friday night matchup in Louisville. So we're going to bring in Mark Ennis. He's the host of The Drive 93.9 ESPN Radio in Louisville. He's a Tampa guy as well.
Yeah.
And that's right. Chamberlain Chief, from what I hear.
Yep.
That's right. So welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ennis.
Thank you for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, Jay Gruden fed from Chamberlain to Louisville, and it was
right.
sort of where it all started for me and my dad. So
that's right. Howard Schnellenberger, the Louisville connection.
Yep.
And Schnellenberger left Miami to go to Louisville and all that good stuff. So, all right, first question everybody in the Bluegrass State wants to know. As we are filming this, taping this, we need a direct update. Louisville, Kentucky on the volleyball court tonight. Give me an update.
We compete in everything in this state because, Louisville's the biggest city in the state. So your neighbor, the guy you go to church with, the guy next to you at work, you never know which team they root for. But they've both taken a set so far. They've got a record crowd in Lexington for this one, and we're in the third set, tied at 2 early in the third set. I think they're going to go all 5, man. They're even. 2 years ago, Kentucky won the national championship. Last year, Louisville was undefeated and lost in the Final Four. And they're both back at it here. I mean, ESPN put them on ESPN. So
right.
There's an audience for this stuff. I'm glad to see them get it.
You're right. No doubt about it for sure. Volleyball, women's volleyball is a very popular sport all over the country. And
in Kentucky, there's a lot of really, really quality private school programs, and they start them young. They've done decades of camps and
club programs.
Absolutely,
lots of clubs.
Everywhere you go. Field hockey, same thing. And you see they feed right in. Both these schools. I mean, it's what they'd love to both have in football. The way that the locals produce for volleyball, for sure.
Right. And Mark also does pre and post game for Louisville basketball and football. So he's dialed into the Louisville Cardinals. We're going to talk all things Louisville FSU right now. All right. Louisville, week 1 was terrible at Syracuse.
Yep. Come
back and play better and beat Central Florida. A lot of people thought that Central Florida would get them in Orlando. They did a good job, won a defensive game 20-14 in Orlando last Friday night. Just give me a sense of the Louisville program through 2 games.
It's really mysterious, what to make of this team. I think just how badly they played in the opener against the Syracuse team that they had really handled. They'd given up 3 points the past 2 games against Syracuse, and then to come out as I think flat and emotionally just sort of sluggish as they did, and to get pushed around the way that they did was really jarring to a lot of people. Almost as jarring as sort of how up they were for Central Florida, because I think the scary thing for everybody was everything Syracuse has going for them, UCF had more. It was a rowdier environment. It was a more athletic quarterback. It was a bigger, stronger running back. And for a quarter, Louisville was sort of still a little bit flat, but to turn it on the way that they did and to win a game, like you said, with the defense, I don't know that they've ever under Scott Satterfield had a defensive game where the defense did the job for them. And I think they left that game with a lot of confidence that they can do that.
Was it a product, in your opinion, of bad UCF or a much improved Louisville?
I think it was a healthy mix of both. I don't deny, for a minute that UCF didn't open fire on its own feet a handful of times, in that one. Penalties and, drop passes, that sort of thing. There's no question. But Louisville's not really even been. This has been kind of the bugaboo with Scott in these close games, just constantly on the wrong side of that sort of thing. It was weirdly refreshing. I don't think Louisville gets credit for it, but just to see somebody else kind of doing that stuff, because it's kind of been the stuff they've been doing. So it was odd to see, and I don't know if it represents a turning point or not, but it was a change.
Right. Quarterback Malik Cunningham seems like he's been there forever. Since Lamar Jackson left, he's been there. Seems like he has. So, obviously a lot of promise from Malik Jackson. Malik Cunningham, he's had moments of greatness, and then he's had other moments where he's not played very well. Yeah. What do you see in Malik this year? Does the scheme fit his skills well, or what do you see with him?
I think it's what they want from him. They would love to feel like they can really, really bring him along as a pocket passer who can run. It's funny, they say, all off season and preseason leading up to it, they really were talking like they would really kind of reached a new level with him. And then after the Syracuse game, they're like, we hamstrung him way too much, and we got to let him just sort of be free. And then against UCF, I think they played a lot more improvisational kind of backyard football with him. And, the truth is he's just better at that. And I think they've made peace with it and they'll build around it rather than trying to square peg round hole it,
Sure. All right. Give us a little overview of the offense outside of Malik Cunningham. Good running backs, good receivers. Tell us what they got offensively, offensive line wise.
Got a very experienced offensive line that I think played a lot better against UCF than they did against Syracuse. I think they got really confused by Syracuse, but has done well against Florida State. But this is a really, really, really big Florida State defensive line. Like they've not had like that since Mike Norvell's been there.
Right.
Really, really quality group of running backs. Jalen Mitchell won't play, but Tyon Evans, the Tennessee transfer, has been as advertised. And then they got Jahar Jordan and Travion Cooley, who was played really well against Florida State last year, be pretty active, I think, in this one with Mitchell out. They love offensive line, quarterback, the running back group. The inexperienced group that I think that they're really still searching for that deep threat. They've had in Scott's 3 years here up to this point, Tutu Atwell and Tyler Harrell last year, guys that could really take the top off the defense, just blaze. They don't have a burner like that this year. And I think trying to come up with big plays in the passing game without that has been a little bit of a challenge through 2 games.
Defensively, I think you're going to see Florida State really try to run the ball. They got really good running backs. They showed they could run the ball against LSU. Travis played really well in that game against LSU. What does Louisville do defensively? Are they a blitzing team, more of a zone team? What do they like to do defensively?
Yeah, I think that's the mystery for everybody, because you can hold up the 2 game plans. Syracuse, they were very conservative and tried to be, kind of a base defense, read and react. And then against UCF, it was just sort of, Katie bar the door, here we come. They blitzed virtually every play, from the second quarter on. I think they've, just like with Malik, it's like, hey, we don't have it. We got to let him be a freestyle. The defensive line is not disruptive all on its own. So I think what you'll see, either to get after Jordan Travis or to slow down the running game, what you saw against UCF, a lot of blitzing. I think they have to and take their chances against Florida State's receivers and Jordan Travis like they did with UCF. Now, I think Jordan Travis is a better passer than the John Rice Plumlee.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's not nearly as tilted a matchup as it was with UCF, but I still think it's Louisville's best chance to sort of slow Florida State down. I think that's what you'll see.
Good DBs. Do they cover well as far as in the back end?
Yeah, I think that's been the part of the defense that they sort of sold us on that's come to fruition so far. They brought in Jarvis Brownlee from Florida State, and then 3 other transfers from Temple, Middle Tennessee, and then Brownlee, and feel like with Keitrell Clark back from his ACL injury last week against UCF, you could see they're like, okay, we feel good about this. And then we're going to take our chances with everything else. And yeah, they hold up. They did not give up. 2.9 yards per play in the second half with UCF. Right. They really shut them down in that game. And I think you'll see, it won't be as one-sided, but they'll dare Florida State to beat them the same way.
Absolutely. Pressure on Satterfield. Is the fan base getting a little anxious? It seems like there's some heat on him. I know he came with big expectations when he came there, hasn't really met them yet. What's the sentiment as far as the fan base goes, Scott Satterfield?
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on him, especially after week 1. The week 1 performance was really unnerving to a lot of people. And there's a lot of pressure on him to just sort of show this is going somewhere, and not that you just sort of constantly be churning in these 1-score games and 6-6. People want to build towards something. He hasn't really given people that feeling yet. And then I think there's a lot of pressure on him in this game, Jason. The thing with Mike Norvell is, here's a guy that's 1 fewer year into the rebuild where he's at,
right?
With a quarterback that's been there for a long time now,
right.
And I think the optics would be bad if it looks like Norvell's further along and is doing more developing somebody than what you've got, a year into it. Correct. So I think there's a lot on the line in this one for Scott here, for sure.
I'm with you. I think it's a big game for both teams. I think Florida State needs to convince everybody that they can win another game after beating LSU.
Yeah.
That they're really not that they're fully back, but they're getting there. Whereas again, Louisville needs to prove that, hey, we can beat the middle of the road teams in the ACC, because both these teams are projected, theoretically middle of the road ACC, but you never know. Either one of these teams win this game could springboard one of the two to a good ACC season.
Well, and I think for both of them, there's the one last, just to sort of follow up on what you were saying, they've both got a ton of difficult games after this. Like, this is one where you're like, if we're going to pick some up here, maybe meet or exceed expectations, we're going to make sure we get this one. I mean, Louisville's got Clemson, NC State, Pitt, Wake Forest, and Kentucky. Right. You know, Florida State's got Florida. They've got Clemson. They've got Miami. They've NC State. Like, there's no days off really for either one of them. They need this one. You know, if you're thinking postseason and progress, that sort of thing.
How do you see the game going Friday night?
I mean, I think it's going to be a coin toss. I really do. I guess I'll lean Louisville because they're at home and they've played well against Florida State. But even as I say it, I can't help but think, like, that's what I thought about Syracuse. You know what I mean? I don't think, though. I think it'll be a lot like the UCF game for Louisville, but I think it will really come down to how much better does FSU handle the pass rush and adjust in a better way than UCF did. I mean, I think Louisville will win by like a field goal, but I don't think it will be a blowout in either way. That would shock me.
Yeah, right. All right, before you get out, I'm going to ask you a basketball question. We're not quite in basketball season, but we're getting there. Kenny Payne era at Louisville starting. Just your thoughts. You know, the Chris Mack era ended pretty ugly there the last year or so. You know, Kenny Payne's a guy they brought home, former player. Yep. Talk to us about the Louisville program coming up in 2022.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Chris Mack because I think it's kind of important to Kenny is loved. I mean, truly loved, and I think has done a great job from the moment he's arrived here. Chris Mack, you know, I don't think Chris Mack forgot how to coach when he got here, but fit matters, you know, understanding where you are and what the fan base expects and sort of the role that the program plays in a city like Louisville, where this is the pro team. There is no pro sports here. We all live and die. And I think Chris Mack got here shocked at how many people were paying attention to every little thing he did. And the job was just too big for him. And he was, you know, he wanted to coach basketball and go home. And the Louisville basketball coach is a celebrity, you know, it's a celebrity and a senator, you know, something like that. And Kenny instinctively gets that to the degree that Chris Mack did not. And so it's been a very good kind of PR run for him. Now, look, this first year, I think is going to be foundational, just sort of program culture establishing and that sort of thing. It might look a little bit rough, but I think you'll be able to tell a difference. And he has been a breath of fresh air for folks. So it's been a rough 4 or 5 years for Louisville basketball. I think they're sort of ready to get back to the way that it has been before.
All right, Mark, great job, man. Appreciate the time. Again, catch Mark on 93.9, The Drive, Monday through Fridays, 3 to 6. You guys stream online as well?
Yep. Yeah, you go to ESPNLouisville.com and you can stream from us from right there, or 93.9theville.com. Either one.
And you'll see Mark on pre and post game for Louisville football and basketball. Yep. And his Chamberlain Chiefs, they're not having a good year. Not having a good year so far, my man.
No, it's the last year is the Chiefs too, I believe.
Yeah, they're changing the name, but they did get a brand new turf field this year, so they got a beautiful, nice new turf field over there off of Bush Boulevard.
Love it. And we got a Chamberlain Chief graduate. Brad Holmes is the general manager of the Detroit Lions now, so I'll be paying attention to them for sure.
Absolutely. So keep up the great work, Mark. I appreciate the time and have a great weekend.
You too, buddy. Thanks.
All right.